You are now listening to The Dot.
What's going on, guys? Greg here, and you are tuned into the September 2023 edition of The Dot, the show where we go over all the best new music of the month and feature artists and songs you may have overlooked in a busy month of new music. I talked about it last month, how August was a little bit slower, but as always, September picks up. This year was no different. I mean, listen to the album releases that we got this past month. Olivia Rodrigo released a big album. James Blake, P. Diddy, Teddy Swims, The National, Bristol Maroney, Zach Bryan, Doja Cat, Bakar, Vic Mensa, Mitski, Jeff Rosenstock, Royal Blood, Slow Dive, and many more. This September was on par with what we are used to seeing with heavy releases, and Drake ended up pushing his album back, so we still have no Drake album. That was originally supposed to come out on September 22nd. He put out a statement as to why that was delayed, but as you can tell, right, feeds right into it. Huge releases here in the fall. So this episode, I'm really excited to get to all of the artists that I'm going to feature, but especially this first band. This will actually be their third time on the podcast. I got to talk to them all the way back in 2020 when they were releasing their first singles, featured them again in the fall of 2021, and for a third time here in the fall of 2023. This is the band Bleach Lab, who released their debut album this past month called Lost in a Rush of Emptiness, and my goodness, did they put out a fantastic album. This was after they released 3 EPs, and each one was just getting better and better. You could hear from the very beginning of this band releasing music that they had so much talent. It's weird to say, like, I almost feel proud of this band, you know. It's just so cool to have talked to them back in 2020 when they first started releasing singles and getting ready to put out some of these EPs. Checked in with them the next year after they were on the heels of releasing a new EP, and then here in September 2023 after they released their debut album. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to check out a song off of that debut album that, like I said, was so good. The song is called Saving All Your Kindness. This was one of those albums that, because it was so good, was very difficult to pick a song to feature, but that's the one I landed on. That was my favorite. And then I'm going to play you guys a snippet from the interview I did with Bleach Lab back in 2020 to just show how far they come. So this is Bleach Lab with the song Saving All Your Kindness off their debut album that came out this past month called Lost in a Rush of Emptiness.
I have questions I don't want to be answered. There are words I'd rather left unsaid. You had the most beautiful smile. There's an image of it playing in my head. There's an image and it won't let me rest. Is there someone you're holding out for? Baby, I've been lying to myself.
All right, guys, we are going to go to a band calling in all the way from Lockdown in South London. Jenna and Frank from the band Bleach Lab. How are you guys today?
Pretty good.
Yeah, good, man.
Good.
Nice to be here. So happy to be here.
Absolutely, and we're thrilled you took the time to do this. So, heck of a year that we've had here in 2020, but congratulations on the new release. You guys have gotten a lot of press, and with you being so early in releasing music, what's it like to see, each release you guys are putting out seems to get more and more steam, and you're getting more and more recognition. Talk a little bit about how that feels, being a newer band.
It's just it's just sort of exciting, I think, just the more sort of interest that we get, we get more positive and more sort of driven to work on stuff.
You get to that point when you're developing as a band where you start to get attention from people who aren't in your sort of inner circles or extended inner circles, and I think that's why it feels really great, because it feels like we're getting to that point now.
I think we didn't want to set too many boundaries or make too many sort of goal points. I think we just wanted to put the stuff that we've been working really hard on out there and just kind of see where it goes, and then work and build from that.
I think we're still figuring that all out. Obviously we're only 4 singles in, but I think one thing that we're starting to get right is we're sort of learning how to play with each other rather than just playing our bits, because I think it's like making the guitar sound good with a certain vocal line, or the drums work really, really well with the bass, and I think we're really starting to get the hang of that, and I think it shows in the songs that we're writing now.
That was the interview back in the lockdown that was November 2020 with Bleach Lab, who just released their debut album. Really hope you enjoyed that song off the debut album. Encourage you guys to listen to that entire album. Keep an eye on this band, because like I've said, they've just been getting better and better, and the sky is the limit for them. So let's go to another debut album, to the artist VC Pines. That's the letter V and the letter C, Pines, who released his debut album MRI this past month. And VC Pines had a nice article written about him from MysticSons.com where he talked about this debut album, and he said, MRI encapsulates the shifts and scoops that my brain goes through on a daily basis. It covers themes of neurology, love, jealousy, addiction, confusion, nurture, and most of all, nostalgia. And this song was one of the songs that really stood out to me, one of my favorite tracks that I came across this past month. This is VC Pines with the single Dangling off the debut album that came out this past month called MRI.
Right now I'm screaming, I'm crying as I dangle in the wind. I'm reaching out to grab your hand so you can pull me back in, but you don't wanna, I'm a goner, so I think I'm gonna slip. My hands are sweaty, body heavy, read your lips and lose my grip. I cry sometimes, especially when I see you in the night. Don't ask why, can't help but feel I'm falling from the sky.
What's up? This is VC Pines. Thanks for having me on the dot. Dangling is about exacerbating problems in your head and developing bad habits that kind of break down the strong relationships that you have with friends and partners. And I was put on medication for my epilepsy, which gave me like these crazy mood swings, and I would kind of make things up in my head. And this tore down some of the strong relationships that I had, and like late nights and alcohol and stuff didn't fix anything, when at the time I thought they would, when really if I just asked questions, things could have been different. So Dangling is a reminder to be open and not fester in your own assumptions. Cheers.
Now everybody in the room has seen this outburst of mine. Do I jump out of the window once I do this last line? See socials crippled, algorithm devil's nipple in my mouth to feed my brain with good ideas so I can spit them back out. I cry sometimes, especially when I see you in the night. Don't ask why, can't help but feel I'm falling from the sky. Right now I think I'm running out of time, struck down by the traffic of your mind. Right now I think I'm running out of time. I see you take your exit from my life. As I dangle in the wind, I'm out of time. As I dangle.
VC Pines with the lead single off that debut album. The single was called Dangling, the album called MRI. Really fun track there, as we just heard. And we're going to go over to an artist who released an EP for us this past month called Opal. The artist is Hyen, and Hyen has 2 albums. He actually released his second album earlier this year, back in April. Album was great. This new EP is really great, and we're going to check out the track In Her Arms off this new EP. And I can't elaborate on this song better than Hyen did for us, so I'm going to throw it over to him to introduce this new song.
Hey, I'm Hyen, for you on the dot. In Her Arms is the last song on my EP, Opal. It represents the harmonious interplay between being comfortably oblivious yet terrified of the unknown. Life is overwhelming, but when I'm creating a song, it feels like I can align myself with the patterns that bring meaning into it. So first, I used my Minilogue XD to create a psychedelic atmosphere. After getting the idea down and adding some drums, I switched to lyrics. To write them, I usually blend true occurrences together with my philosophical ideas. In this scenario, I'm laying under a willow tree, dozing off in the arms of a loved one. They feel like no one will truly understand what's happening inside them, but they're smiling as they catch me fall asleep, knowing that there's at least some comfort and closeness. I'm not really sure if I'm able to capture the idea, but every song is an attempt to carve out my truest self, so I'll be releasing a new track each month, filled with my experiences, refining them, trying to bring out their full potential. Thanks for having me, and enjoy.
She asked why everything was happening at all. Trapped by the wisdom of the freedom that we
The new song In Her Arms off that EP that came out this past month called Opal. And you can hear what Hyen was talking about with that psychedelic vibe, that psychedelic feel he gave that song. Really loved that track. Now let's circle back to a band that I had on the podcast a few months ago. They called in to introduce a single that was off their upcoming album. That album did release this past month. The band is The Brook and the Bluff. The album is Bluebeard. And I just wanted to give them a shout out because that was such a great album. Really good tracks. This might be their breakout album. It's their fourth album. But again, this might be a breakout for them. Got some really good press. It's getting very positively received from the public. Paste Magazine did a interview with them recently, and Paste said the record is a beautiful fusion of soul, indie folk, Americana, jazz, and pop. So I wanted to peek into one of my favorite songs, one of the songs I've had on repeat this past month off of that album called Head First. We're going to peek really quickly into that track, and then we're going to bring on Echo Ladies, the band who released their new project this past month to introduce their new song called Funeral. Enjoy.
Know you want it. It's not the first time. I thought you had it. It's not the last line. Picked up the pieces that it fell on the way. Long arms to gather what your hands couldn't take. Two sets of bones. Love and alone. I want you to know, yeah. I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about. All they have to say is there's no easy way out. It's just head first. Hey, this is Joer from Echo Ladies, and thank you for having us on The Dot. So Funeral was actually not really finished when we entered the studio to record our second album, Lilies. Our producer, Joachim Lindberg, helped us a lot, taking the draft that we brought and build a song out of it. And the song is about running from like your emotions, your fears, or someone you love, and the need to move on. And it's also about feeling stuck in life and feeling the need to move on, to get out of where you are at the moment. And the name Funeral actually came from when we recorded the song. We added so many different vintage synthesizers and electric organs to make the soundscape of the songs big and epic. So we thought eventually that it reminded us of something religious. So we ended up calling the song Funeral. We really hope that you enjoy it, and greetings from Sweden. Thank you.
Special thank you to Echo Ladies for calling in to introduce that new track Funeral off their second album that came out this past month called Lilies. Really loved that entire album. Let's go to the Vancouver-based psychedelic band who released their album this past month called Eternal Embers, and this is the band Melt, and that's Melt with 2 T's, M-E-L-T-T. And Ian from Melt called in to introduce this song that we're going to listen to called When the Smoke Abates, and really fascinating inspiration behind this song. And you'll hear Ian talk about kind of where they were when they were putting together not just this song but this entire album, and some of the other influences and metaphors that really led into putting together this track. So I'll throw it over to Ian and then we will enjoy the song.
Hi, this is Ian from Melt, and thank you to The Dot for having me. So I'm here to talk about When the Smoke Abates, which I'm stoked to talk about because it has a special place in my heart. It actually started as a Chris demo. I think he just had the idea, threw down some keys, some vocals, some harmonies, and then kind of forgot about it. The demo name was Quick One, which is what we called it all the way up until putting lyrics to it and naming it When the Smoke Abates. He brought it to us when in 2020, we went up to a cabin to write the songs for this album and work on them together. And part of that was just sharing all the demos we kind of hoarded up during the kind of COVID pandemic isolation time in 2020. And like I said, he had forgotten about it. He just brought it up and he's like, Quick One, oh, what's this? And he plays it, and it was just those gorgeous harmonies and keys, and really the whole vibe of the song was just there right from the beginning. And I don't know if he was about to just keep on going, but I was like, oh man, we got to work on that one. Like, let's try this out. And so we started working on it together, and it really was just kind of a jam almost. Like, we were just did a few takes with us all together, me and James on guitar, Chris on pianos and singing, James doing the harmony, Jamie just laying down the beat. And it just, in the moment, it felt like a really special thing, all of us together playing. And what's really unique about this song compared to the other songs is that other than a few, I think Chris's vocals and some of Jamie's drumming, other than those two things, it's all exactly as we played it from the cabin there. It's the same recordings of James and I on the guitar, kind of doing the dueling ambient things. And usually we're the kind of band that we record our ideas, we work on them together, and we re-record to the very best of our abilities to make the sounds as perfect as possible to us. But in this case, it was just all already there. It was just, we kind of felt like we had something special, so we just kept it. And then when it came to writing the lyrics, I went with the whole fire themes that we had been working on from the album, and that really came from where we live in British Columbia. There's a lot of forest fires these days every summer, and where we were working on these songs in the cabin, it was really smoky for the first week or so we were there, like hardly could go outside kind of smoke. And that really affected, that kind of natural environment really had an effect on me and kind of the metaphors I was making to things happening in my own life. More specifically, the song is really about me coming to terms with what was going on with my dad fighting ALS, and also at the same time seeing how it affected myself, my mom especially, and it was just, me confronting that. And so again, sorry if I rambled on a bit here, but thanks again for having me. And I know you're based in Delaware. I'd have to double check my geography, but I think Washington DC is close. We're coming there October 29th. Should come check us out. So thanks again.
this is Ryan Patterson from Photocrime. Thanks for having us on The Dot. The song I Still Need You Here was inspired by some of the songs I remember hearing in the backseat of my parents' car when I was a kid. Things like Sade and later Roxy Music, this kind of softer edge of music that maybe had connections to punk and post-punk and proto-punk, but it had kind of smoothed out around the edges, saxophone and rim shots and things like that. I imagined it being like a scene from a Truffaut movie, a couple breaking up over coffee and tea, and then one of them boarding a train. But eventually, love finds its way back to the people that you need most and love most, and is a personal song for me in that way, about coming back to the people that I find I need the most in my life. Thanks for playing the song. Thanks for listening. This is Ryan from Photocrime.
Another departure across coffee and tears. Can we slow this heartbeat until we disappear? The lunatics in their tower, in the street, I'll stare in bemusement at the ruin of our dreams. We all succumb to our nature, we give in to our fears. When the end is nigh and the light is low, I still need you here. Fragments of chaos, countless detours of art, all seek to distract us from the pain that we cause. Still you're the dream that I reach for, you're the way color feels.
Huge shout out and thank you there to Ian from Melt. Again, that's MELTT. And then we went right into Ryan, who called in from Photocrime. Really appreciate the call, and it was a great intro into that song. As you can hear right now, awesome song. And it actually, I wish I could play more of it. It has a saxophone that comes into it. It really takes off. So I highly encourage you guys to not only listen to that song, but listen to that entire album that came out this past month. And here we go again, approaching 30 minutes. I still have 3 artists I want to feature, so I'm going to start moving this along and head to our next artist here. This is Kevion Kramer, who released his single Restart this past month, and he called in to introduce the track.
Hey, this is Kevion Kramer, and thank you so much for having me on the dot. Restart to me is a song about the highs and lows and basically everywhere in between of falling in love. I wrote it when my girlfriend and I had our first real fight. It was sometime in last April. And to be honest, I don't even really know what it was about. But I do know that it made me realize how scared I was to lose her. When I was writing the song, I really focused around the idea that love is not just a feeling. But I also really think that it's about wanting to fight for somebody, even when times get hard. I feel like Restart's a song that depicts every moment in a strong relationship, whether it's the best moments and the worst. And it's probably one of my favorite ones that I've ever written. So this is Restart, and I really hope you enjoy.
We met at 16, and I'm pretty glad we did. 'Cause I'm not the jealous type, but you make me jealous like a little kid. It's been some months since then, and some arguments, they don't even matter. I wanna know, what are your plans? And if you can stand it, I wanna be there after. And it's so restart. I hope you miss me when I pull away just for a second.
Hi, this is Jay Watson from Gum. Thanks for having me on the dot. This song is called Fear of Joy. It's probably my favourite song off my new album. I think just because I recorded it sort of half live with my friend over a drum machine, like not to the grid or a click or anything. And it's kind of the first thing I've made that's sort of, I don't know, like it doesn't sound, it's not jazz at all, but it's sort of inspired by jazz I'd been listening to. And the song itself, I guess, is about just that weird, unnerving feeling when everything's going well for you, like too well. And just the fear that you're going to sort of fuck it up. Yeah, Fear of Joy.
Kevion Creamer with the song Restart right into Gum, who is Jay Watson, actually the drummer for Pond and Tame Impala, with his new track Fear of Joy off his new album Saturnia that just came out this past month. I was a big fan of that album. Special thanks to him for calling in and giving us a little bit about that song. So guys, this is going to bring us to the end of the episode. Went a little bit over, wasn't able to do the rundown of the albums, but featuring these artists is more important. We'll get back to that next month. This month, we started with music from Bleach Lab, then went to VC Pines, Highin, The Brook and the Bluff, Echo Ladies, Melt, Photocrime, Kevion Creamer, we just heard Gum, and we're going to get played out today by Jesse Judies. Jesse Judies was originally from California. He actually moved out to Australia. He's an indie rock artist, and he released an EP called Colors of Youth, and we're going to listen to the song Colors of Youth, the lead single from the EP. It was a 3-song EP. These songs will be featured on his upcoming album. And guys, thank you so much for listening. Do what you can. Get out there to support these artists so they can keep making great music for us. And always remember,
it only happens once a month, so you must be on the dot.
Hey, this is Jesse Judies, and you're listening to music from Colors of Youth here on The Dot. To me, Colors of Youth is really about embracing the unknown in regard to life and love with a little bit of swagger. Kind of like that feeling when you first get to a hotel in a foreign city and you drop your bags off and you take that first trek out there to find out what adventure awaits. Planting the flag, Colors of Youth. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy.
Passionate, can't stand a world made of plastic. Get in my car, temper my shot, giving you chase around the world. Save the menagerie, all us in the past. Recouping my style.